Okay, so when we first start this process, it's going to be key that the hair is extremely wet. So you can see here, I am spraying the heck out of her hair. And now we're going to add some leave-in conditioner because that helps keep the frizz down. Depending on how curly your hair is will depend on how much of that leave-in conditioner you use. So now I'm adding some mousse to the hair. Again, depending on how curly your hair is will depend on how much product you want to add to it. But you definitely want a product that's going to add some hold. And now we're going to start by brushing out her bangs. If you don't have bangs, then move on to the next part. But this is for medium curly hair. She doesn't have extreme curls, but she definitely has some curls. But we're going to need to do some special things to help bring them out a little bit more. They're not used to being brought out. So you want to start by sectioning off the hair, like I'm doing here. That's what it looks like in the back. And depending on how you want to start, you could start with a section lower than what I'm doing. And it depends on how much hair you have as well. So tension is the key. You want to see that as you brush these pieces of hair together, they start clumping together on purpose. Because hers isn't very long in the back, we just want to make sure it's laying nice and has some volume to it. So now I'm moving on to the rest of the crown area, taking it section by section. Depending on how thick, curly, that sort of thing your hair is will depend on the size of the sections you take in the brush. So sometimes you have to try out some different things in order to see how well they work for you. So it's important to remember that everybody's hair is going to be a little bit different. If you have medium curly hair, this is going to be the method that's going to be best for you. But if you have longer hair, it's always going to be different. So just keep that in mind as you're watching the video. Some of these tips will be applicable, some of them won't. But again, tension is the key as you're doing this, and making sure that each section gets brushed out properly. I know that sounds weird and it probably goes against a lot of things that we've learned in the past about curly hair, but by doing this, you're actually countering the frizz that might come from hair that just has a medium curl to it. And it helps the hair to fall into its natural S pattern depending on the curl that you have. So this is really helpful. Now she parts her hair over there where you can see it pretty clearly. So I'm going to try really hard to actually stay within that range. So here's the other brush that I tried out, and it actually created more tension and I really liked it. So we went through the top with this brush to create more of that tension. So it gives it a smoothness and clumps that hair together so that when you go to use the diffuser on it, it actually stays together, but also curls it. Now, as we start the blow drying process, we want to start with the bangs because she's got that natural curl in the front. We want to watch the angle of the blow dryer and make sure that we're pointing downward so we don't get extra frizz. This direction gives it a little bit of extra volume because we don't want them to be flat either. So here we're moving on to the diffuser. And it's really important that you allow gravity to be your friend when using the diffuser. And also to make sure that your fingers are not scrunching the hair. So we all learned way back in the day to scrunch the hair to make it curly, right? This actually method, it goes against that. We don't want to scrunch the hair because by scrunching the hair, you actually cause the product that you have in your hair to not work as well. It breaks it down. So by keeping it in those curls that you've already formed by brushing and then gently putting it into the diffuser, and see how I have her tip her head like that, then you're allowing gravity to work in your favor and putting it in the cup of the diffuser. And then the diffuser can do its job. I keep the diffuser on low and a medium heat. So not too high of a heat and definitely not too high with blowing. It does take longer to do it. And all of this I've done on twice the speed because obviously this video would be way too long if I didn't. So it does take time to do it, but it's important to recognize that as you take the time to let the diffuser do its job, you actually get a much more even, fuller, better curl. So here's a snippet I did for you, and I left it in real time. And it looks really slow compared to the rest of the video, but I really wanted you to see how long I'm letting the diffuser hold on to that hair before I let it go again. Okay, so now we're back up to regular speed. I would highly recommend that if you're doing this on yourself, that you actually flip your head upside down or really tilt it back or really tilt it forward to the side. Whichever area you're doing, they're again allowing gravity to put the hair into the cup of the diffuser. The less you can touch the hair, the better you're gonna be. The less frizz you'll get, and the longer the style will stay on its own if you don't have to manipulate it into doing what you want it to do. So that's our ultimate goal, is to allow the hair to do what it naturally wants to do so that it stays in as long as possible. You can just continue to watch me go through this process. I thought it was important to include the whole entire clip of how long it actually took to do it, but it took about twice the amount of time, simply because I'm teaching her as I'm doing it, and I'm also getting to know her curly hair. Usually we do it straight, like I said in the beginning, so this was kind of a fun and unique process for both of us as we were learning her hair. And you'll find that as you start to do your own hair curly, it is a process that you have to learn as well. And each time you do it, you're going to learn a little bit more about how your hair works, whether it's a different brush that you try, or a different product, or a different amount of product. All of those things are going to really play into how well the curl turns out. And so it's a lot of second guessing and a lot of trial and error to figure that out for yourself. So be patient with yourself as you're going through this process, and just remember that. So in this part of the video, it's kind of interesting. You'll see that the hair gets really big. Now, I was taught a method where you want to get as much of the moisture out of the hair to help the curl as possible. But I've actually found that depending on the person's hair, that isn't always true. And with the type of curl that you want to get, that may not always be true. So with this particular client, the more that we got water out of the hair, the bigger the hair got with volume, and she didn't necessarily want that. So in the end, we end up tweaking it a little bit more to help it calm down a little bit. She just didn't like that approach. So I recommended to her that maybe she get her hair about 90% dry instead of going for 100% dry. So there again, it's going to be some guesswork for you as to how you like your curl to be. Because her hair is a bigger S pattern of a curl, that's why it continued to get bigger with the volume as we dried it. So you can see how big and crazy her hair is when we were done blowing it dry, and how it kind of looked a little in disarray. So I just go through with my fingers and tried to form some of the curls and shape them just a little bit better to help it calm down, so that it was a little bit of a better look for her. So here's the back view of me picking out, kind of individualizing some of those curls a little bit better for her. And now I decide to take the curling iron and form some of them to be a little bit more uniform. She is used to having her hair more in place. So this whole look for her was definitely out of the box. It was really fun that she got to let me try it. But we decided in the end that some of those curls up top were just a little bit too crazy. So we used a 1-inch barrel to just put a little bit of extra curl in some of those places. Not everywhere, just a little bit on the top and on the sides and in the back. Probably maybe 6 or 7 curls total. And hopefully she won't have to necessarily go to all this work when she does it. Hopefully we took out a little bit of the trial and error for her by us doing it together. Because I dried it as fully as I did, I think it prevented some of those curls up top from just staying nice and a little bit more orderly. Now here you see me using an aerosol hairspray. I love this hairspray. This is by Kenra, and I believe it is a new one in the Platinum line. It's, I think, number 21. But the reason I love it is because it kind of gives a wet feel. So usually an aerosol has a drier feel to it, but this particular one, it says wet set. So it kind of gives more of what we used to get with a pump hairspray, but you can get it in an aerosol form. So that's kind of fun. So you can lift the hair and kind of put the volume where you want it with a little bit of hairspray, and keep that curl nice and voluminous looking without getting frizz. And here I'm showing her the back, showing her how the sides turned out. And we were really happy with the overall look of it. Well, I hope this video gave you the courage to try something different with your hair. I'd love to hear in the comments below if you decided to try your hair curly. Like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.